Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Copeland. Welcome to another in our series of webinars. This one is called Developing an Advance Directive or a Crisis Plan. Just to be clear from the onset, in the wrap materials that I've developed over time, we have used crisis plan and advance directive interchangeably, but other people kind of consider the advance directive as what you get from your mental health agency, and that the crisis plan is the part of the plan that you develop more for yourself that doesn't have questions that are on the one that you developed for the mental health agency. Um, on this webinar, we'll be using them interchangeably. So I wanted to let you know that this webinar is sponsored by Rap and Recovery Books. That's our organization that develops, publishes, and distributes information on the Wellness Recovery Action Plan and other mental health recovery books that are based on the ongoing studies of my work. And it's also sponsored by the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery, and they do all of the educational outreach that we do. They sponsor all kinds of programs, and I'll tell you what programs that we have coming up at the end of the webinar. So, as I said, the focus of this webinar is the RAP Advanced Directive or Crisis Plan. This one is different from what you may find in given to you at your mental health agency or organization. It may be, if you're a care provider, it may be different than the one that you're told to use. This is one that was developed by people who have had a lived experience of mental health issues, and this is what they decided needed to be on the plan back 15 years ago when we developed the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. So the form for this is, for the Advanced Directive or Crisis Plan we're using, is in the many RAP resources that we have available, and you can also download it at the rapandrecoverybooks.com. So it's there, and it's in the facilitator training manual. It's in the red RAP book. It's in the Spanish edition of the RAP book. It's in the RAP for trauma. You can find it most anywhere. So I really recommend that you develop your advanced directive or crisis plan after you've developed the first parts of your RAP. And the reason I say that is because this is the most difficult part of RAP to develop, and you'll see why as we go through this. It's really has more parts. It takes more thought. It's going to take longer to do. So it's much more difficult. It's a real project to develop an advanced directive or a crisis plan that's really going to support you through a difficult time. In addition, developing the other parts first gives you the information and experience you need to develop a strong advanced directive and crisis plan. And developing this, it reduces the likelihood that you will ever have to use your advanced directive or crisis plan. Developing and using your RAP is going to reduce the likelihood that you will ever have to use your advanced directive or crisis plan. But I still believe really strongly, even if you use RAP intensively, because we can't predict the future, we can't know what's going to happen, what traumatic things might come up, what's going to happen to you in your life, that we are really, it's our really best way to keep ourselves in control, even when it seems like things are out of control. So, in developing your RAP, the very best way, I think, is, and what we've found through numerous studies now, is in a group with a certified RAP group facilitator. That in a RAP group, you learn from the other people in the group, you get ideas from the other people in the group. You can find out about RAP groups. We have a website called Wrap Around the World. You can contact the Copeland Center and find out about RAP groups. You can call the mental health agencies and organizations in your town or area or region to find out about RAP groups. You can even call your state director of consumer affairs to find out about RAP groups. There's all sorts of ways you can find out about them. If you can't find a RAP group that works for you, or if you would prefer to do it another way, the other options are to do it one-on-one with a supporter, sometimes your care provider, a case manager, a counselor, a primary care physician, a psychiatrist will be willing to work with you on developing your RAP. And you can develop it on your own using one of the many RAP resources that we have available that will walk you step by step through that process. We even have a computer program so that you can put it on your computer and develop your RAP. And you can use the e-learning course, Build Your Own RAP. So there's all of those options. So let me just say briefly that RAP is there's the wellness toolbox. It includes a daily maintenance list, a list of things you need to do every single day. Which of those wellness tools do you need to use every single day? What are those things that might upset you, and what might help you if you got upset? What are the early warning signs that you're having more difficulty? And then developing a plan so that you can just work yourself back to feeling well when you're starting to notice these early warning signs. And then I want to say a little bit more about the when things are breaking down part of the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. While it's the part of the plan that I use the least, I think, of the first four parts, I think for me it's the most important, because being really watching myself and seeing that I'm having a really, really difficult time and then taking action to help myself feel better is what prevents me from having to use the Crisis Plan or Advance Directive that I have. I have one and I have not used it in many, many years, but I'll be referring to the ways I used it through this webinar. But that when things are breaking down is a very, very important part of your Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It's when things have gotten to be it's that stage when in the past you might have considered it a crisis. You might have gone to an emergency room. You might have reached out for more intensive services. You may have had to not do some of the things that you do. You may have behaved in ways that you didn't want to behave. And using this plan is a preventive to keep all of that from happening and to keep you from having to use your Crisis Plan or Advance Directive. So, an Advance Directive or Crisis Plan keeps you in control even when it feels like things are out of your control. When you can't take care of yourself and make decisions in your own behalf, the answers will be in your Crisis Plan. It tells your supporters when you need help, and this is a very important part of this plan, when you need them to step in. And that's often left out of other plans, and what you need them to do for you and what they should not do. You know, well-meaning supporters will often think of something to do and it might not be at all helpful. So, before we begin, there's a few things I want to say about this. There is only one person who can write your Advance Directive, your Crisis Plan, and that's you. That doesn't mean you can't ask somebody else to actually do the physical writing down for you and you tell them what to say. But what's in that Advance Directive and that Crisis Plan has to come from you. And you're the one who decides if you want to develop one, how much time you'll take to do it, when you will do it, which parts you will do. I encourage you to do all the parts, but it's up to you. And everything that's in it, it's all up to you. And like the other parts of RAP, your Advance Directive and your Crisis Plan is voluntary. It's self-determined. It's determined by you. You want to focus it on strengths, on the things that you do well, and away from the things that are wrong with you. I suggest, and because of what lots of people have told me, that you avoid having a diagnosis. You do not need a diagnosis to develop an Advance Directive or a Crisis Plan. On the one we have that doesn't have any connection to any insurance, there's no need for any diagnosis. I know that sometimes you're told you have to put down a diagnosis, and that may be for insurance reasons. And sometimes you just have to put them down and kind of ignore them. But in this Advance Directive Crisis Plan, we avoid the diagnosis and the use of clinical terms. When you use clinical terms, Some people might understand them one way, some people might understand them another way, some people might not understand them at all. So it's as well to speak in everyday language and to write in everyday language in your plan. Your RAP Advanced Directive Crisis Plan focuses on simple, safe, non-invasive actions and solutions. In this process, you understand that you are the expert on yourself and that there are no limits to your recovery. And just because you're having a difficult time doesn't mean that you're going to go on and on and on and keep having difficult times. The assumption is that you're going to get better and better and better over time. And that's what we're seeing happens with people who use RAP and who plan ahead. Also remember as you develop this that you are as worthy as anyone else and you deserve to be treated well. So if you're working with somebody else, working in a group, you deserve to be treated well, and it's important and valuable as any other person on this planet. That's a very, very important thing to remember. No one is any better or more important than you are. And you're ready to develop your Advanced Directive Crisis Plan whenever you feel you're ready. It's not up to somebody else to say, I think you're ready now, so you've got to do it, or I don't think you're ready now. It's up to you. You decide when you're ready to develop your Advanced Directive or Crisis Plan. So this part of RAP is different from the other parts of RAP because you're developing this for the other parts of the plan you're developing for yourself, for your own personal use. The wellness toolbox is for your use. The daily maintenance plan, the triggers, and the action plan, the early warning signs in the action plan, and when things are breaking down action plan, those are all to be used by you. This advanced directive is for you to give to other people, and they have to follow it. So that means they have to be able to understand it. And so it needs to be written clearly and carefully. My personal suggestion is that you use more words rather than less. I know that when I was, back many years ago, when I was supporting my mother through a crisis, that I wish we had had something written out, and I would not have minded how many pages I needed to read. When I first showed some healthcare providers the Advanced Directive Crisis Planning form that we came up with when we developed RAP, they said, oh, no, that's far too long. You need to have it on one side of one page. And I disagreed with them, and so did all the people that developed RAP, that if it takes 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 pages that needs to be read, if it can keep somebody from having a more difficult time and help them to get better, that's all to the good. Consider typing your Advanced Directive on a computer so it's easy to make changes and distribute copies. Give yourself plenty of time. Take breaks. Don't try to do it all at once. Give yourself rewards for your accomplishments along the way, so that when you take a break, do something really nice for yourself. For instance, right now, today, it's really very hot where I am in the Northeast. A reward for me after I did this might be to go and take a swim. Think about what a reward for you might be. And it helps a lot to have a strong support person to assist you. This is really hard work, and you need to acknowledge that this is hard work that you're doing. Before you begin, I strongly suggest that you contact your State Office of Protection Advocacy or your State Office of Consumer Affairs to find out if there are specific things you need to include in your plan to make it legally binding or more apt to be followed in your state. So you can find the phone number for your State Office of Protection and Advocacy in the front of your phone book. And you should be able to find from your mental health agency or particular mental health groups what the phone number is for your Office of Consumer Affairs. You may be able to go on the internet and find those numbers as well. But be sure to check that out because there may be some things you need to include in your plan to make it legally binding or more apt to be followed. I was just reviewing the Pennsylvania, the rules and regulations around advanced directives, and and they're very different from what I've seen in other states. So it varies from place to place. And so you may want to add some things into your plan to make sure that it's as legally binding as it can be. Um, in a lot of places, they aren't legally binding, but they're really, really helpful to those people who are providing, who really care about you and are providing you with support. I'm going to go quickly through the parts of RAP, and then we'll go through it one part at a time. Part one is what you're like when you're well. Part two are the indicators that others need to take over. Part three is who takes over and who doesn't. Part four is information on healthcare contacts and medications. Part five is acceptable and unacceptable treatments. Part six is a home community care respite plan. Part seven is acceptable and unacceptable hospital or treatment facilities. Part eight is things others can do that would help. Things others might do for you that would make you feel worse, a list of chores and tasks for others. And then part nine is indicators that the plan is no longer needed and any signatures of key people that you need. And again, that has to do with what the regulations are in your state. If it's not legally binding in your state, I suggest you still get signatures from some key people, and you may want to name someone power of attorney and get their signature on your Advance Directive as well. All of that will show people that this is really important, that this is what you want to have done, and makes it more likely that they'll follow it. So the first section is what I'm like when I'm feeling well. You want to describe what you're like when you're feeling well, to be used as a reference point for people who may not know you. And as for those of you who've already developed a RAP, you know that we already did that back at the beginning of your RAP, so that this particular page can be copied from the first part of the first section of RAP. But it's just making a list of words like bright, outgoing, humorous, athletic, reasonable, responsible, loud, hardworking, withdrawn, active, talkative, energetic, dramatic, quiet. The reason for that is that you may want to give your Advance Directive to the police in your local community, or you may want to have a copy at the emergency room, or have a copy in the mental health agency, or a hospital. And those people may not have, whoever you first interact with may never have seen you before. And they might make some assumptions about the way you're acting. Like if you're talking really fast and you're talking a lot, they may think, oh, wow, this is a sign of something. And that just may be the way that you always are. Or if you're very withdrawn, that may just be the way you always are. So it's really important to have them to have something to go back to. You can include a picture here of you when you're feeling really good. That sometimes can help. So that next section, very, very important. And this is something that you don't see on other forms usually that are put out by agencies and organizations. These are the indicators that others need to take over. You need to think deeply about this. And when would you want somebody to step in and take over? I'm sure many of you have, if you've ever experienced a difficult time or crisis, there has come a time when people have stepped in and taken over and did things that you didn't want them to do and that weren't helpful. And you knew that you could still have taken care of yourself. So having this list keeps people from stepping in and taking over when you still can take care of yourself. That your people are apt to step in when things are breaking down stage, and you know you can really help yourself out of that. These are the signs that you have moved past that and you're in the situation where others need to take over. What would that look like? Well, maybe you're unconscious. Maybe you haven't moved for 4 hours. And it's good here to make times. Like if you're going to say, I have not, you might say, I haven't eaten for 2 days. I haven't had anything to eat. That might be a sign. If you're not recognizing your family members, if they come in and you don't know them, that might be a sign. Saying I can do things that I can't possibly do, like telling people that you can fly, and you're serious about that. Threatening other people or threatening yourself. Being unable to stop moving. You just keep moving and moving and moving. You can say for how long? Say, I kept pacing and pacing and pacing up and down the room for 2 hours. Or I washed my face for 4 hours and my face was starting to bleed and I couldn't stop. You might want to say if I'm involved in criminal activity, that might be a sign that others need to take over. whatever that looks like for you. In this part two of my plan, I wrote something that you may want to write. When I get to be in a situation where I'm really in a crisis, I lie. I don't tell the truth. So I've told people in my plan to look for these other signs and to not believe anything I say if they see those other signs, because I lie a lot. So that's in there, that I'm lying is in my plan. And while I wouldn't tell them that if I was having a real crisis, when I think about it ahead of time, I want my family members and friends and supporters to know that so they can really help me out. To help yourself figure out what these signs are, you may have to think about difficult times in your past. Not easy to think about these things. It can be upsetting. Treat yourself well when you're doing this hard work. Ask someone you know well and trust to give you suggestions and support you as you do it. So moving on, and this is another important, very, very important piece. Every part of this is important. You need to list at least 5 people you want to take over for you. They can include family members, friends, or care providers. I encourage you to have mostly family members and friends. Many care providers can't be available around the clock. Perhaps they can't come to your home. They can't take you places and do certain things with you. They have certain requirements around their work. So the more family members and friends you have, the better. You may have 1 care provider or even 2 on your list, but mostly have family members and friends who are available, are more readily available. If you don't have 5, I think one of the best places to meet new supporters is to join a support group. Join a support group that has to do with RAP. You can join a support group that has to do with other kinds of mental health issues, or you can just join a support group that's maybe it's a Weight Watchers group, maybe it's for people who are single parents, maybe it's for people who like to read certain kinds of books. Anything that gets you out with people so that you meet more people, make more friends, and make more connections with people in the community. Don't put people on this list unless you ask them ahead of time. And then you need to tell them what you want and say, can I put you on the list? And if they're people who are doing RAF work, it can be a mutual thing. You can be on their list, they can be on your list. So if they say they can do it for you, it's great. If not, they can still be a good friend. Peers often provide the support for each other, other people who have a lived experience similar to yours. And I'll say this again later, but you may want to set up a meeting with your supporters so they know each other and to discuss the plan. And include a list of people you do not want to be involved in decision making or care, along with a reason for that. For instance, I have a doctor who I might run into at our local hospital, and I do not want him involved in any way. I had a very bad experience with him in the past. It could be somebody that you really like a lot, but you know that they're just not good in difficult times. It may be a family member. It may be your mom, and it's just too hard on her, and you don't want her involved. So have a list of those people, and then also have a description of how you want supporters to settle disputes if they disagree. For instance, you might want to say, if my supporters need to make a decision about how to proceed, I'd like 3 out of 5 to agree, or I want my husband to be the bottom line, or I want my girlfriend Kate to be the bottom line, but figure out a way that disputes would be settled, and that helps people a lot. Then there's a section on medication, and you want to provide the following information, and this is something that you're going to need to update quite a lot. The names and phone numbers of your physician and pharmacy, their insurance company name, phone number, and ID numbers, all allergies. For instance, I have an allergy to Coumadin. That's on my Advance Directive. I can't take Coumadin if I have a very serious allergy, and you may have serious allergies to things. And then you want to list the medications and healthcare preparations you are currently using, why you're using them. That's all of your medications for your heart, for diabetes, for fibromyalgia, for pain, anything you're taking, the dosage, and when you take them. medications you would prefer to use if medications or additional medications became necessary and why you would choose them, medications that would be okay with you, and then medications that must be avoided and why. So work yourself through this process. And I want to just say a little bit more about medications. These days, because of the work of Robert Whitaker and Writing Anatomy of an Epidemic, we're becoming more and more aware of the dangers and side effects of medications. So before taking a medication or including it on the list if it's not one that you're already taking, use the form Questions to Ask the Doctor About Medication. You can download this at our website at www.rapidrecoverybooks.com. You go down the right-hand side, it says Download Forms, and you go down there and click on it, and you get Questions to Ask the Doctor About Medication, and you can make as many copies of that as you need so that you can have a form filled out for every medication that your doctor suggests or that you've ever thought about. And I suggest you also do it for the ones that you're currently taking, so that you have that information on file. Use your library and internet to get more information and to help you make medication choices. If you are considering stopping medications, a lot of people are these days because they're finding out the long-term side effects and that the medications aren't really that helpful. Work with a healthcare provider to do this, as there are really specific protocols for doing this safely. You cannot just stop taking these medications. Most of them need to be stopped gradually over time, and you need a healthcare provider to work with you on that. And I think if you're stopping medications, it's very important to first develop and use intensively the Wellness Toolbox and the first 4 sections of WRAP, because if you have difficult times after you stop the medications, your WRAP is going to be a great help to you. So if you're thinking of going in that direction, develop a good, strong Wellness Toolbox. I've got Ed just reminded me, I've got over 100 wellness tools in my Wellness Toolbox, and I've got a strong first 4 sections of WRAP. I have mine on the web. It's on the Build Your Own WRAP program. Treatments. Moving on to treatments. List those treatments you would like and those that you would want to avoid. Include alternative therapies that have helped as well as those that have not been helpful. If you are considering or want to avoid treatments that may have dangerous side effects like electroconvulsive therapy, be absolutely clear about your wishes in your plan. Be absolutely clear. Say that in my plan I have said, I do not want electroconvulsive therapy. I've said the reasons why I don't want that, and I've asked my supporters to take legal action in my behalf if anybody is planning to do that. But you may have a different take on that, but learn about it on the internet. Learn all about it at the library and from respected healthcare providers, and make your own decision. Don't make it based on what I feel. Make it based on what feels right to you and what you've learned. Now, important, do not omit this section. This to me is a very, very, very important section of this Advance Directive, and it's different than what anybody else has in their plan. It's a home community care respite center plan. Hospitalization is often not the best option. Sometimes it's not even available. It may not be a hospital you want to use, that you care to use. It may not be possible with whatever coverage you have. You need to develop a carefully devised plan so that you can stay at home or in the community and still get the care you need. To do this, you need to find out what possibilities are available in your community. So you're going to list those treatment centers where you would prefer to be hospitalized if that became necessary, and those you wish to avoid. Let me go back. I didn't say quite as much about this home community care and respite center as I should have. So let me just revert back. I want to tell you about a time when I was having a very difficult time, and I had already developed this plan. And when my supporters noticed that I was having a difficult time, when they saw the signs that's on that page that says indicators, one person saw it and then called all the others. And they set up a system so that I could stay at home, and people just kept coming. And I could stay at home and be safe They knew what to do. I was rude, and that also says that in my plan. I'm asked to be rude, and I'd tell them to leave, and they wouldn't leave, and they would just stay, and they would just stay, and would just stay. My plan told them what I like to eat, um, and what kind of activities to encourage me in, and what kind of activities that I would want to avoid. You might have in your plan that you want to go and stay at a certain drop-in center or a respite center during the day or overnight. There may be places in your community where you can go. So all of those are options for this section. Once a facilitator came to me and looked at the plan for the training that we were doing, they said, "Why are you spending so much time on that?" And I said, "Because I think it's so very, very, very important." And if any of you have questions about that, come back to me with the questions about that afterwards. So we were talking about treatment facilities. You want to list those treatment facilities where you prefer to be hospitalized if that became necessary, and those you wish to avoid. To make choices about acceptable hospitals and treatment facilities, visit the ones that might be chosen for you. Where might you end up going? For instance, we have a big psychiatric facility in our town, and that might be one that people would consider for me if I got into difficulty. So I need to look at that again. I need to look at it from time to time and see if that's really a place where I would want to go or where I would not want to go. You want to find out their policies on the use of seclusion and restraint, on strip searches and other punitive treatments. You may feel that it would be more traumatizing to you to have those kinds of things happen to you. And that if it's the policy of the facility to use those things, you may want to look for different facilities where they do not use those methods. And you may want to talk to people who have been patients at these facilities. Talk to people who've actually been there. Then the next section is help from others. List things that others can do that would help. This is so important. When I was having a really rough time, there was one person that came that really wanted to be helpful, but she just chattered the whole time. She thought she'd divert my attention by chattering about things like, getting her hair cut and little things that were happening in her house and lots of things that didn't mean anything to me, and I was getting more and more stressed and more agitated. So on my plan it says don't chatter, don't chatter. So things that would help some ideas are listen without interrupting. Give me a chance to talk. Let me talk and talk and talk, even if I don't make any sense. You talk and talk and talk. Hold me. Let me pace. Lead me through a relaxation exercise. Peer counselors who exchange listening with me. Take me for a walk. Provide me with material so I can draw or paint. Look back at your wellness toolbox list for ideas for this. You probably see lots of ways that other people can help you, and they are going to be so grateful for this list. Let me express my feelings. Don't talk to me, or do talk to me. Encourage me, reassure me, feed me good food. Be specific about what that is. Keep me from hurting myself, even if that means you have to restrain me or get help from others. Keep me from hurting you or others. And then include a list of specific tasks you will need others to do for you and who you would like to take care of these things. Things like you need somebody to pay your bills. You don't want your rent to get behind. You want to make sure you keep up on your credit card bills, whatever it is. Who's going to do that? Who's going to take care of your kids if you have kids? Who's going to take care of your pets? Who's going to talk to your employer? Who's going to tell the place where you work? And what are they going to tell them? Do you want them to say what's really going on, or do you have something else you want to say? You just need some time off. Who's going to buy groceries? Who's going to keep food in the house? Who's going to do the household chores? And then have a list of things that wouldn't help, things that won't help. List things that others should avoid doing, things that would not help, and things that might make the situation worse, like using force, leaving me by myself too much, spending too much time alone, teasing me, restraint and or seclusion, getting angry with me, impatience and invalidation, not being heard, trying to entertain me, certain kinds of music and videos. This is a very, very important list, as you can see as well. And then, when my supporters no longer need to use this plan, you're going to get better. If you're going to follow this plan, people are going to do things that are helpful to you. Every day you're going to feel better and better. but some people might be a little overzealous and they might say, wow, I've got this opportunity, I can be in charge, and you want to make sure that they back down when they should. So develop a list of indicators that your supporters can use to determine when they no longer need to follow this plan. Some ideas for this: when I've slept through the night for 3 nights, when I begin cooking for myself, when I eat at least 2 good meals a day, when I'm taking care of my personal hygiene needs. And again, excuse me, this kind of thing is different for everybody. Like there's some people that don't ever take too much care of their personal hygiene needs. You know, they're really quite casual about it, and so it wouldn't be a sign for that kind of person. And some people never cook for themselves. And some people never clean up their place, and that's just the way they are. But so you have to think specifically, what does it mean for you? Like for me, what I would be better if I was cooking for myself. I would be better if I was caring that the house was a mess and that I wanted to clean it up. I would be doing better if I was starting to get dressed in my regular clothes and taking my showers and doing the things that I usually do to take care of my personal hygiene. And if I was knowing people, and if when I talked I made sense, when I can carry on a conversation, when I can keep my living space organized, when I can be in a crowd without being anxious. Like when I'm in a crisis, it's very hard for me to be with other people. So when I can be in a crowd without being anxious, that's a sign. When I return to work, when I can sit still for 10 minutes. So again, this is different for each person. And so that's the crisis plan. That's it, the Advance Directive Crisis Plan, whatever you want to say it, that's what it is. And we're going to have some time at the end so that you can ask questions about that. Help assure that your crisis plan will be followed by signing it in the presence of 2 witnesses. If you want to have more, that's fine. It's all the better. Give copies of your plan to your supporters and agencies and organizations in your area that you might need in a crisis, like the police, the emergency room, or a mental health agency. You want to have that's why it's so nice to put this to develop this on a computer, and then you can make copies for people, and then you can easily make new copies. Be sure that you date them so that that they'll follow the most recent one, and it makes it much more easy to distribute them. And again, as I said before, review your state's requirements regarding your Advance Directive Crisis Plan and do the things that would make it more legally binding if they're acceptable to you. So there it is. Update it when you learn new information, make changes in your life, when you change your mind about things, and after a crisis. And give your supporters new copies of crisis plans each time you need to revise it. Hold a meeting of the supporters you list to review the plan and make sure that they understand it. You might really want to have people get together at your home if you're comfortable with that, and have a potluck. A good friend of mine did that, and she actually had a series of potlucks, and everybody brought something to share, and we ate together, and then we talked about the plan, and we talked about what we felt would work and what we felt might not work, and what parts of the plan perhaps needed to be revised. So make these fun times when everybody gets to know each other, and it increases the support system for everybody. It's a very, very good thing to do. I knew another woman who had a lot of problems with mental health issues, but she decided that she wanted to have a child, and she had a child, but she had this circle of support set up so that when she was having a difficult time, all these other people stepped in and took over the care of the child, and it worked very well. It was like this strong circle of support that supported this child all the time that she was growing up, and it was a wonderful thing. But those people had to get together, they had to talk about it, they had to know the child well, and it worked wonderfully for that mother so that she could be a parent. And when you completed your advanced directive, have a celebration. It's hard work. And for further help in developing an advanced directive or a crisis plan, We've got lots and lots of resources available at rapandrecoverybooks.com, and at the Copeland Center. .com, you can find out about trainings that are available, and there's also people there that can answer questions for you. We also, you can go, if you have specific questions, you can go to these websites and you can join. There's a group for people who are rap group facilitators. There's a group for people who just plain use rap. You could go on Facebook, and you can, and those are places that you can go and you can ask questions. So if you're having trouble with some part of your advance directive, you can go on there and ask the question, and you'll get information from lots of different people who are using it, who have developed advance directives and are using them. So, and then you can choose which of that information you want to use. So be sure and use a Facebook. We've got Facebook pages that you can easily go to from our websites, and you can easily join these groups. We also send out email messages, come out every week, and you can get on the list so that you get those messages and you get ideas for RAP and for your advance directive, those emails. We have many, many RAP resources. We have RAP Plus, we have RAP Stories, we have Winning Against RAP, the Depression Workbook. We have all kinds of RAP books, and we have RAP books in Spanish, and RAP books for kids, and RAP books for people who experience trauma, RAP books for people who are veterans and people in the military. We've also got these neat little things that are so great. It's a little a MyRap. It's a form. You can see it at the bottom of your screen. It's a form a simple form that you can use to develop your RAP, so you can carry around in your pocket. And now we've got one for the crisis plan, and that's exactly what we talked about today. And you can get those at www.rapandrecoverybooks.com. We've got the Wrap Around the World Conference coming up January 25th to 27th, 2013 at the Oakland City Center Marriott Hotel in Oakland, California. So I hope you will join us. The first international conference was incredible, and this one promises to be even better. Robert Whitaker is going to be there as the keynote speaker. I'm also going to be speaking there. We have lots of good workshops, and you'll be able to learn more information that will help you in developing all of your RAP and in your advance directive and the crisis planning work. Copeland Center has some trainings coming up, the facilitative training August 20th to 24th in Raleigh, North Carolina, a refresher course July 16th to 18th in August in Austin, Texas. Go to this website and you'll see everything that they've got coming up. And the next webinar is July 10th at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's RAP for Everyday Lives. It's a special webinar that's addressing ways that people with developmental distinctions, we all develop differently, and we all have various learning styles, and how people with different learning styles and different stages of development can benefit from using RAP. And before we move on to questions, I just want to say one thing. I know that all of you that are on this webinar today are people who either have a lived experience of mental health issues and challenges, or you provide care and support for people who do. And that means that all of us are in a position where sometimes somebody is going to come to us and say, I'm having a really, really bad time, and maybe this is just awful. I don't know what to do. I'm really upset. I'm really agitated. I can't stop moving. This is really terrible. And the best thing, and maybe you don't have their advance directive, you don't have their crisis plan. Listen. The thing you can do is you can say, I'm not sure what you need or what would help, but what I can give you right now is I can listen to you. So say anything you want. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be organized. Just say anything you want. Just go on and on and on. And I can listen. If you have to limit, you say I can listen for 10 minutes. I can listen for 15 minutes. Often in that process, people will figure out what it is that they need, and it helps people generally to feel a lot better, and sort of diffuses what can be a very difficult situation. So I think there's some questions, and Megan, tell me what the questions are.
I am. The first question is from Heidi, and she's in Canada. And I think she wants you to speak a little bit about the more international way of dealing with making the Advance Directive being legally binding, since you spoke a lot about United States and contacting your states.
Hi, you're in Canada, and I'm sorry that I didn't address that, and I haven't looked it up, and so I'm glad that you brought this up. I would suggest that you reach out to any mental health agency or organization that's where you live and ask them how you would find out the information that would make this legally binding. You could also reach out to an attorney. But I expect, as we have here in the United States, that in Canada, that there is some kind of an agency of protection and advocacy, and I don't know what it's called. So if somebody else knows what that would be in Canada, if you could please call in and give us that information. But I would start with the mental health agencies and organizations in your area and asking them, or your governmental agencies should be able to give you that information.
Okay. Here's a question from Bill Smith. He wants to know if there are any recommendations for the home community respite section of the plan for those people that are precariously housed or homeless.
Well, it's very, very difficult. That one of the things about RAP and all the sections of RAP is that it's kind of infinitely adaptable, and we have to adapt it for people who are homeless or in situations that aren't necessarily safe. And if you're homeless or if you're in situations that aren't necessarily safe, I would try and develop a relationship with some kind of a mental health agency or a drop-in center that's in your area or a respite center. Go there, tell them that you're very concerned, that sometimes you have a very, very difficult time, and that you need to know from them what kind of options are available so that you can keep yourself safe and keep other people safe when you're having a very, very difficult time. So you're going to have to do a little footwork. Ask your friends, ask the other people who are in situations similar to yours, who they reach out to for help. Is there a respite center? Is there a drop-in center? Is there a homeless shelter? And then go and talk to the people who work there about this dilemma and see if you can figure it out and work with them to develop a plan. Bill, if that's not helpful enough, write in more now, or send us an email, and we'll try to help you with that.
Thanks, Mary Ellen.
One more question.
Here's John. He's actually sharing a resource for Californians specifically. So if you go to the website www.disabilityrightsca.org, you'll find everything you need to know about the law of California and advance directives.
So that's a very good point. Let me just read that off again.
This is www.disabilityrightsca.org. And I would imagine that other states would have a similar website.
Right. So that's one thing I didn't say, and that's anybody can go to the library, and they can, and I think I would expect to have similar access in Canada. Go to the library and get the reference librarian to help you find how you can reach out to agencies of protection and advocacy. So look it up on the web is a great thing to do. And you can ask questions there. Usually you get some response back as well. So are there, if there's any other questions, this would be the time to let us know other questions. We also would like to hear from you and know if we've done the series of workshops. We did an overview of RAP, and then we did a living RAP, and this last one has been on the Advance Directives of Crisis Planning, and we've got the other one coming up on using RAP if you've got special needs. And we'd like to hear from you and find out if this series has been helpful to you. We also did one last week that I expect a lot of you attended that was with Robert Whitaker, and that was about the issue around medications and what is the research showing around the use of medications. And that was a very, very lively webinar. We had lots of good questions. And we'd like to hear from you about what it is you'd like from us going forward. We'll be planning more webinars in the fall. And as it gets into the summer, it's a little, people are not so available, but we will have one in July. But what would you like us to do for webinars? The reason I like the webinars a lot is because it's an opportunity for me to reach out to you and for other experts to reach out to you to give you a piece of information that's going to move you forward with your recovery, or if you're a care provider, it's going to help you to help others on their recovery. There's no charge. It's open to anybody. You can access. Lots of people have computer access. We have another question.
Yes, this is from Michelle. She'd like to know if I'm still using medication. Are there any tips on getting healthcare providers to go along with Part 6?
When you say Part 6, I'm assuming that you're using medication and you're thinking about stopping it. What I have been doing is going on the internet, and there's lots of information on stopping medications on the internet. And one of them that I found was there's a PDF that's at you'd have to get to it. You would have to Google the ICARUS project, ICARUS project. That in 2007 they developed quite an intensive document that has to do with stopping medications. There's some good books that are available on stopping medications, and so I would encourage you to use the internet as your friend in this process. And then if you can't get the healthcare providers that you're using currently to assist you in this process, the people that I know in my community that have helped with that, and that I've heard from other people in other communities, have been the naturopathic physicians, and they are willing to help people reduce and go off of their medications. So reach out to naturopathic physicians. They have lots and lots of good information and can help you and be supportive. Or you may need to find different healthcare providers. So there's all of that. And again, what I really would recommend highly is develop a strong RAP and then use that RAP intensively, and before you even begin that process of getting off the medication, so that, because what they found is that after, when you're reducing the medications, you may have some feelings and behaviors that come up that are more difficult than anything you experienced before. But if you have your RAP, you're going to know how to work your way through that, and you're even going to have an advance directive so that it will help other people that work you through that situation. One of the things that I'm going to be working on most intensively over the next month is researching the issue of stopping medications. Right now, we're asking people who have stopped using medications to write in their stories to us so that we all can learn from each other how to do this. This is becoming more and more important, so we're asking people to send that kind of thing. So I hope that helps.
Great. Here's a question from Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne.
Yvonne wants to know, is it better to have crisis plan as a go-to in Advance Directive, and that way every time you change something, you can only have that part changed, or go to a legal document? In some states, they don't have psychiatric Advance Directives, or will that vary with each state?
I think that's going to vary with each state, but I can see that a very useful thing might be to have one document that contains all, like, the medical information, like your allergies and specific information that's going to stay consistent over time to be in one document, and then and that one also might be for your regular health, just maybe if you have diabetes or some other health condition, that information would be in that medical advance directive, and then attach your mental health advance directive as kind of an addendum to that, because that's the one that you're going to be changing most often. So um, I think I probably set that up on my computer. In fact, I think that's a really good idea to set it up on my computer. So it's two separate documents, but they go the same. They go together, so that so that you keep that one separate, so you can more easily make changes and adaptations. Okay.
Can't hear.
Yvonne, could you let us know if you heard that?
Okay, we can. There's no reason why we shouldn't be hearing. So I would be knowing, I think. So there's a question from Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen.
She says, I have found many times when the doctors don't have time for my questions, the pharmacists are very eager, willing, and knowledgeable to talk.
Yeah, I agree, Kathleen, that I hope you all keep looking until you find physicians. I hope you all have that opportunity and option. Keep looking and looking until you find a physician that will be accessible and will be able to answer your questions and will be able to stick with you to listen to all your questions. Um, um, so that's, but your pharmacist is a good source. On those downloadable forms, there's information to take with you when you go to the physician that can help a lot. So look at those downloadable forms and download the one that's information for the physician. So when you've got your appointment, you can take that with you and get a lot of your questions answered. But lots of times your pharmacist is a really good resource. And then don't forget your own abilities to do research in your own behalf. I do that a lot. And if I see that, I notice, I've had a sore shoulder lately, I looked it up on the internet. There's all kinds of ideas and exercises that tell you about how much ice to use and how much heat to use and what kind of exercises to use and what kind of exercises to avoid, and whether I should be hanging the clothes on the clothesline or whether I should be using the clothes dryer while I'm going through this, and how much I should be lifting, and has everything. So use the internet too as your friend. Yeah. Okay, we're at 3 o'clock, and it's been a real pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Please do email us, let us know how these webinars, how they've been helpful to you, how we can improve them, what would you like them to look like as we go forward. And thanks so much for attending.